What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. So I'm here today to talk about The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 14, Episode 9, Midnight in the Chateau of Good and Evil. So be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and let's jump right on into it. So this episode starts off with Shereé and her homegirl Fatum. And if you'll recall, Fatum, she's Shereé's friend, and she brought her to Kenya's, her daughter's third birthday party, the tea party. It was in episode 3 of the season. And Fatum, she brought up to Drew about how Shereé's assistant, she basically spilled the beans about how Shereé's assistant, Anthony, was going around Atlanta saying that Drew's husband, Ralph, was gay. So she brought that to Drew's attention, and Drew got all hot and bothered at the birthday party. So that's who Fatum is. And they're guest starring on Tierra, Shereé's 31, she's like 34. Her like a grown-ass daughter, Tierra. And the podcast is about sex positions and relationships, stuff like that. They're talking about this, I forgot the name, some sex position I haven't really heard of. It was, I don't recall. Then during the interview, Tierra, she got like, I guess like a Google alert. I guess she had like Google alerts set for Shereé for some reason. It's like, or you're not your mom's publicist, like, you know. But if you get like a Google alert, or what it seems, of regarding Shereé and Tyrone, and it's basically like it's saying that Tyrone he didn't film with Shereé because that would have landed him back in prison or something. So Tyrone's basically talking shit about Shereé, saying that like she was trying to land him back in prison, she was trying to get him back behind bars because I guess that would have been the result of their meeting in Philly for some reason. I don't even know. And so yeah, Shereé's kind of like, what the hell? Like, no, that's not true at all. She doesn't go into too much detail about it right now because she's on a podcast, but we learn more about that later on. And then we segue over to Marlo and the boys, and she's again talking about how since the call with their mother, they've been acting up, you know, and understandably so. You know what I mean? It's a bit, they're 12 and 14, you know, which are not so much, well, I guess those are like difficult ages, you know. It's like when you're really transitioning into being a teenager and being like a young adult, you know. And Marlo kind of fills us in on some of the shit that's been going on. The 12-year-old William, he got like 3 referrals within 1 month, and the older one, Michael, he like he like mouthed off at one of his teachers. He was like, oh, you don't get paid for arguing with me or some shit like that. And people on Twitter were like, not Michael taking Marlo's personality with him to school. But no, it's, you know, it happens. You know, I had my fair share of bullshit with teachers, especially like 5th, 6th grade, 7th, 8th, you know, like up until like maybe like I was like a sophomore in high school. Like, oh my gosh. So I know it. I understand. And Marlo, she says she's really struggling, you know, because she's a muntie, you know, she's her aunt. It's been like about 3 years, but a lot's changed in that time, you know. The boys are getting older, and Marlo, she's never had to raise teenagers before. She hasn't had to raise teenage boys. She hasn't had to raise anyone, you know. So she's struggling, but she's really trying. So we'll get more on that later on, though. Then we have Kenya. She's having Sanya over at her house just to, like, hang out. She has, like, a charcuterie board. They're having some drinks. Just kind of chilling. And they see this kind of small talk about Sanya's, her family and living situation. Because remember, it's Sanya, her husband, their son, Sanya's sister, her husband, their 2 kids, and Sanya's parents. So, like, 9 people living in that home. And Sanya, she, like, dishes on her, like, sneaky sex life. She's like, Ross and I are, like, sneaking in closets, or, like, we'll be having sex and be like, my parents are downstairs watching a movie, like, you know, and I feel like there's a mutual understanding. I'm sure everyone feels that way, you know. Sanya's talking about how she and Ross are like, oh, we're on eggshells trying to have sex in our home. But mind you, it's like, it's the same situation for Sanya's parents and her sister and brother-in-law, but it's like, they're not in their own home. They're in your home, so it's probably an added layer. So I don't know, it's a whole thing it's like, it's not ideal for anyone, I assume. Then Kenya, she begins talking about, like, being a single mom, because she basically is contrasting, like, oh, you know, you have so many people in your pad, and there's, like, a downside to that, but there's a major positive to that. You're really blessed. I'm on my own. Because they have very different support systems, I guess. But mid conversation, Kandi calls and she basically gives an update regarding the methed out trespasser. But yeah, so she fills him in on that. Lets him know, everything's all good. If he trespasses again, he can be arrested, blah, blah, blah. And then the FaceTime call with Kandi ends, and Sanya and Kenya, not the Kandi Kenya mix up again. Sanya and Kenya, because you kind of talk about Kenya's drama with Marlo, because remember in the last episode, at the Drop It With Drew event, Kenya and Marlo got into it, it was getting really heated. And just Kenya, she says that she's kind of over Marlo. She says that she's gonna keep getting the same response. She's like, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and expect a different reaction. She basically, I know who Marlo is, it's never gonna change, so why even bother? So that's Kenya's mindset about the whole situation. Then we get back with Shereé. She's having Fatum over at her place at Chateau Shereé. I learned more about Fatum. She's from Djibouti, which is this, it's in Eastern Africa. It's I think it's on the border of Somalia. A little tiny country over there. And they go back a few years and they're hella cool. And they further discuss the Tyrone situation. Because remember, it came up, Shereé basically learned of it while with her daughter on the podcast. So now they're okay, let's sit down, have some drinks, and let's get down to the bullshit, basically. They begin talking about everything, and Shereé quickly gets emotional. She says that she feels dumb, crazy, duped. She says that I guess Tyrone's in there for robbing someone. I don't know if it's fraud or robbery, something like that. And Shereé says she feels like one of the people he robbed because he robbed her emotionally. He robbed her of. She's she can't get those years she wasted on him back, and she needs to break down. She gets so emotional. It's this whole thing, and she says, she's just crying and says that Tyrone's an asshole, and it's just so embarrassing. It's really sad.
You were like a ride or die, and then seeing the article. How'd you feel?
I feel stupid. I feel crazy. I feel duped. I feel I feel like the damn people he stole the money from. He robbed me emotionally. I put in so much.
I'm sorry. I don't want to.
I know. I feel so stupid.
Fatum, she's offering Shereé some really good advice, and they basically just they support each other, and then they have some mimosas. Okay, girls, let's have some drinks and get the drinks flowing. She makes the mimosas, but they have too much juice. They're I like my mimosas. It's just a touch of juice. It's I'm one of those bitches, It's I add juice for just a little bit of color, basically. It's I want, because it grosses me out. It's I don't want it to be 50% juice, 50% champagne. That's way too much, in my opinion, for me at least. How do you like your mimosas? Are you do you not mind a lot of juice, or do you prefer a lot of juice? Or are you like me, or just kind of no, I'm like a 90-10 ratio, you know what I mean? That's why I don't like going for bottomless mimosas and shit. Because I went to one once over in San Diego, and it was this lady was walking on this picture of, again, it was probably 60% orange juice and the 40% champagne. It was ugh, it's, I don't know. That's my take on it, at least. Whatever. Then we have Drew with her mother, Pastor Jeanette. She flew in from Chicago, and they're at a nail salon. And Drew's filling, I think they say Jill. Drew's filling her mom in about Ralph's book. 'Cause remember, he's writing a book about step parenting. And she kind of glosses over the assistant drama. She's oh yeah, his assistant who got him the book deal, she disrespected me, so I had him fire her. That's all she said about it. She didn't really go into detail. Then Pastor Jeanette, she brings up Ralph adopting Josiah, Drew's oldest son from her previous relationship. And Drew discusses the situation. She says that she wants Ralph to adopt Josiah. And I guess they legally changed Josiah's last name to Pittman, Ralph's last name. So it's like, if you did a name change, why not adopt? You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like, because the adoption is kind of like a symbolic kind of thing. You know what I mean? They're obviously also like insurance related and like legal benefits that come with like adopting someone, like it's a security, but Drew probably doesn't have to worry about that, or maybe she does. Who knows? But anyways, so there's some benefits to the adoption, but it's like it's kind of discreet. You know what I mean? It's kind of behind closed doors, but a name change is like a big deal. You know what I mean? It's like public. It's changing their name. You know, so I don't know. I was like, if they already changed his last name, why are you fussing about adopting him? Because I guess Ralph's take on it is like, oh, you know, because remember last season Ralph made a big old deal about like fostering a relationship between Josiah and his biological father, and so Ralph was like, oh, it's a respect thing, it's a man thing, like I don't want to adopt this other man's child, it's his child still, I'm the step parent, I'm the bonus dad, but I don't want to adopt him. And I could totally see Ralph having that like toxic masculinity thing, like I'm not gonna intrude on this other man's child, but it's like Josiah's dad, his biological father, isn't even really in his life. I don't know. But Drew was also saying like, oh, Josiah would love it if Ralph were to adopt him. But it's like, would he really? You know what I mean? I was kind of like, does Josiah give a fuck? You know what I mean? But I don't know. I think it's something they can talk about as they get older. But again, they're like insurance. I think it's the biggest thing, like the insurance related benefits, or like, God forbid, if something ever happened to like Drew, it's like, so he could like, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, because having that, like, becoming a legal full parent, you know what I mean? Not just a step parent. I think it makes sense in this situation. Not every situation. Like, I have a stepdad and a stepmom, but, like, my real mom and dad are very much in my life. You know what I mean? They don't have to adopt me. You know, so, I don't know. That's my take on it. I don't know. What do you think about it? Because, again, I wouldn't really be saying anything about it if it weren't, like, they already changed his last name. They decided to change his last name to Pittman. I presume, I think they said something about that. They changed his last name, but yeah, and again, I feel like this makes sense in the situation if Josiah's dad isn't in his life really at all. I don't know, that's my take on it, but anyway, Pastor Jeanette and Drew, they begin talking about how is Ralph writing a step-parenting book if you and him have this issue, because I guess Drew actively wants him to adopt Josiah, but Ralph is like, oh no. And it's like, well, if she wants you to, why, I don't know, why not entertain the idea? I don't know, man. But anyway, they kind of move on from that, and then the mom shares a message with Drew, basically regarding, because Pastor Jeanette, I guess she talked to someone else at the church, some other pastor or whatever, and she was like, oh, she wanted to share this message for you, and so she had, like, a voice recording on her phone or whatever, and shared it with Drew, and the voice recording was something like, be on the lookout or be wary of a woman because she's out to get you or some shit. A female adversary, she says. But she's like, I don't know if it's truly a woman though, because it could be a man with the spirit of a woman. But basically be on the lookout. Something's coming your way. And so Drew's kind of side-eyeing everyone. She's like, is it Sanya? Could it be, is Kenya gonna turn on me? Is it like, she's kind of like, who is it? Who could it be? And then Drew, they kind of wrap up the scene by venting to her mom about the situation with Sanya, because I guess even though Drew and Sanya like made up at the end after the Drop of the Drew event, I guess Drew ultimately learned about Sanya's interaction with Ralph, because Sanya went up to Ralph during the event and was like looking for advice for her relationship with Ross. And again, I don't know why the fuck she went to Ralph for that, but whatever. And mainly, Ralph said something about like, oh, you know, being busy is an excuse to not have a child. You know, Drew and I are busy, or just as busy, if not busier than you guys. Which I think is kind of a weird thing to say. You know, it's like, don't compare busyness. But Sanya responded by saying like, oh, well, I don't know, you guys act like you're busy, but, just kind of joking, but it was kind of shady, but it's like, I think Ralph's comment was also shady. No one's really talking about Ralph. No one's really addressing, no one's really addressing Ralph's shade at it, but it's like, that's, I don't know, he's the one who started it. So I'm not that upset with Sanya for saying that because it was in response to Ralph, And I'm quick to jump on Sanya if you recall, but I'm not too upset with her for that comment because it's like, well, Ralph said it first, but of course, he didn't really convey that to Drew. But yeah, and Drew's kind of thinking that Sanya's fake, but her mom, in a true pastor manner, she's encouraging her to rebuild and no shade, but I'm just saying like I would expect her to say something like that. But yeah, and that's the wrap up of her scene with Pastor Jeanette. Now we have Marlo. She's at a furniture store and she's shopping for her new home. And it's going to be ready in about 12 to 14 months, she says. But because of COVID and like delays and shit, she's like, oh, well, I'm going to have to start getting shit now, start getting stuff ready so I can have stuff to furnish my home. So she's going around shopping and she has Shereé and Sanya link up with her. And while they're there, Shereé shares that she's hosting a little fun slumber party, a little sleepover at her place. She's gonna have everyone there. And she says that everyone's gonna be there. Marlo's like, well, I don't know about with their stuff with Kenya. And she's like kind of playing the victim. She's like, Kenya was 2 people that day. And she says, oh, I've never seen her like that. Like, we haven't been friends for years. I've never seen that side of her. And she says some bullshit that wasn't picked up. The other girls didn't hone in on it, but she's like, I don't know if she's taking pills to lose weight. And it's like, okay, here we go. It's like, of course. And it's like, Marlo, shut up. But then Sanya brings up she just linked with Kenya, and she tells Marlo that Kenya felt blindsided by Marlo and everything. And Sanya Pizza also asked Marlo to not go below the belt, not to get gutter with it, but Marlo says she can't promise that. Marlo pulls a Brandy from Ultimate Girls Trip 2. She's like, I can't promise that I won't tell her to shut the fuck up. Marlo brings up that she recently started seeing a life coach. I guess it was someone who Shereé's life coach recommended or something like that. And then she segues to discussing the boys. And she shares that some of the issues that they've been having, she kind of shares some more things. Some of the stuff at school that they've been doing. So I guess they had like a huge mess in their room. And Marlo like woke up one day and she was like, okay, boys, come on, we're going to the laundromat and just getting all this shit washed and taken care of. And I guess they just, I don't know, but essentially Marlo said there was like this like 4-day-old wad of like wet clothes that was all funky and shit. You know, it gets like moldy and nasty. Like, if you just leave it in the washer overnight, it gets nasty. I can't imagine like, it was a pile, so I couldn't breathe. Ugh. But so there's this pile of wet, nasty clothes in the room. Michael, he like punched a hole in the wall. There's this big old mess over the room still. And I guess Marlo took away Michael's laptop and put it in her closet. And then he went back in, stole it back, and like hid it under like this giant teddy bear named Mr. Billy. And so, yeah, she's sharing all this shit, and Marlo says that, she was overwhelmed, she needed a break, and she kicked them out. And so she sent them to live with their other aunt, Marlo's little sister, Crystal. She sent them to live there for, like, a 30-day wake-up call. This other aunt, though, she has 4 toddler boys. So Marlo's like, Crystal, she has 4 young children, and she's a no-nonsense person, so she'll get him into shape, and it's like she clearly already has her hands full with her own kids. They're gonna send 2 teenage boys, and Marlo's kind of like, oh, well, they'll see how Crystal is until she can't really give them the same attention and lifestyle that I can give them. But it's like, and so Marlo's hoping that it'll make them, like, value her and, like, want to come back and be better. But it's like, they may like not having that much supervision. Like, they may fuck with that, So it's like, I think it's kind of risky, on that. And of course, it's like, so Marlo didn't really kick them out. She did, but she sent them somewhere else with another family member. But it's like, I don't know. So it's like, on the one hand, Kandi explains it really well later on. I'm kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but Kandi eventually says, like, okay, yes, I have sympathy for Marlo, but, you know, when she took these boys in, she should have realized that she's going to have to put her own feelings on the back burner and focus on them. And I get that, you know, Kandi said it really well, but, you know, a lot changes, and over time, Marlo said that she initially thought it was going to be like a short-term kind of thing, and it turned into 3 years, and, you know, Marlo's overwhelmed. She's never... Again, I don't even know if Marlo's had a fucking plant before. She's never had to raise, you know, who knows? But, you know, it's a big deal. But, you know, obviously it's like, you'd have to kick them out, though. But she may have been at her wit's end. You know, Marlo said, you know, kicking them out was the best thing I could have done. Maybe it was literally like, I'm about to flip the fuck out. You just have to, like, I don't know, you know. I'm trying to get into Marlo's head and just kind of see what's up. I have to be careful, though. I'm going to start talking like this. But, you know, anyway, so she's kind of sharing that. And she said that she's afraid of failing the boys. She shares more about the situation. And she really said that she had to pull herself up from the bootstraps. And that she, you know, had to build herself up, had to rely on herself. And she's afraid of failing the boys and not bringing them up properly, you know. So Marlo really does care about them, but she just doesn't know what to do, you know. I think she really needs to... She says she's like a therapist, you know, but I hope that's someone who's like specialized in like family stuff or like helping with like parenting, you know. Because it's a unique struggle, because, you know, it's like when you're someone's parent and you've been in their life for like ever as their parent, you kind of have like a level of like there's a level of like respect that can be held. Yeah, like presumably, but Marlo's just like the fun aunt. You know, she's the fun aunt forever, and now she's swooping in as the Muntie. She's put into this caregiver role, and, you know, it's probably an adjustment for everyone. You know, it's probably easy for the boys to be like, man, you know, whatever, like, it's just Aunt Marlo, they'll call her Marlo. They call it Auntie only. Marlo forbade them from calling her Marlo. But yeah, and Sanya and Shereé, they're supportive, but they're also really pushing Marlo. Sanya says, like, okay, it'll be good for you and good for them, but I challenge you to figure out how things are going to be different when they come back. Which that was a good response. Like, okay, take the break you need, but is it just going to be a 30-day gap and then be the same old shit? Or is it going to be a constructive month where you figure out how you're going to make the situation better, I guess. So yeah, I thought they were really supportive and they gave some good advice. And then we segue over to the ladies prepping for Sheree's sleepover. Kenya, she brings up the bolo drama from season 13 while on FaceTime with Sanya.
I don't know how this slumber party is going to go. The last time we had an overnight situation where all the girls were together. Let somebody else play with that. Some people ended up hiding the dick. It was a lot of things happening.
The girls start rolling in the Shereés. Fatum, she shares that she brought some coochie incense, as she puts it. She's getting it ready for Shereé. And it sounds like it's similar to what was on the Real Housewives of Dubai. And mind you, Djibouti and the United Arab Emirates aren't that far apart, you know. So because in Dubai, when Sarah took Nina over to her like family home in this past episode, they had this thing where she was like using this incense. I forgot what it was called. But they were both wearing like skirts and shit, and they were like stepping over the incense and letting it go envelop them and stuff. It's like, is that similar? Like, maybe it's like not coochie incense in particular what they were doing, but it seems like a similar process at least. And Shereé, Kenya, and Sanya, they're there, and they kind of begin discussing the Drew situation. There's kind of like, I guess Drew didn't RSVP for one thing, so they're kind of like, is she gonna come? It's kind of talking about Drew in general, I guess. And Sanya asked Fatum what she thinks of her. And mind you, Fatum and Drew got into it at the birthday party. Fatum, she's like, oh, well, Drew went off on me for no reason. And essentially, when Fatum, she was like telling her friend about it, she's like telling her friend, like, oh my gosh, like about what happened. And her friend, who works in real estate, I guess, did a fucking background check on Drew and Ralph. It's like, oh my God. It's like, is that legal to do a background check for like no reason? Like for no, I don't know, it probably is. And then she shares with the girls that Ralph and Drew allegedly have, I think she said that Ralph has like 12 aliases or some shit, including one that's Danielle, so he has like a female name alias. And then the doorbell rings, so Shereé goes to answer it, and it's Monietta, and they have a moment. It was kind of funny and cute. Captures the vibe of the evening.
It's funny. She's like, I know people. Hey, all I see is Tata.
More people roll in. Drew, she's wearing the exact same thing as Shereé, because Shereé asked all the women to wear different shades of nude, I believe, because it represents stripping away the negativity, so you're nude. Some shit like that. So they're wearing the same thing. It's an awkward moment with Fatum, so Drew's basically going to go say hi. He's like, where do I know her from? He's like, oh, yeah, I remember how we met. Yeah, so Drew still remembers. And again, Drew was very wary about all the women there because of the advice she got that her mom shared from her phone about the female adversary. Marlo arrives. Kenya fucking calls her a Sasquatch in a wig, and it's like, oh my God. But you know what? Marlo gets gutter later on, so Kenya's probably angry about that in her confessional. They start a painting activity. Shereé had some nude models come through. It's giving Kandi vibes, and everyone's like, what the hell? And Kandi in the confessional, she's like, I know what you're thinking. I had nothing to do with this, though. Lisa Wu, the OG of the ATL, rolls in. She's making a little cameo appearance. It's really exciting. And things are heating up with the nude models, might I add, as well. And while they're painting, Drew and Sanya are next to each other, like side by side. And Drew addresses Sanya about the comment she made to Ralph about them acting like they're busy. Drew says that she thinks it's weird, and Sanya says that she meant no shade. She says, like, oh, I was kind of trying to tell Ralph, don't quantify our busyness. It's like, I get what she's saying. I don't think Sanya was being honest. She said she meant no shade. It's like, you meant shade, but it's not shade that you initiated. It was retaliatory shade. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, while talking about the situation, Sanya, she accidentally refers to Ralph as Drew. And Drew's like, wait, what? And Sanya's like, oh, sorry, like, Drew, Ralph. She's like, oh, I get confused because, like, the boy name, girl name, as she puts it. And then Drew, she's like, oh, so they're coming for my name now? And Sanya's like, okay, dude, whatever, I'm not getting into it. And she walks away. And it's like, okay, like, Drew is kind of being annoying. But Sanya's been asking, Sanya asked for it this whole fucking season. Now she's getting it. Now she's getting an annoying, yappy Drew. So, whatever. I'm not mad at it. I'm here for it. The ladies segue to the dinner table. They're sitting down. Marlo and Kandi, they're like, oh, they both wind up in the bathroom together, essentially. They have a moment, and Marlo tells Kandi about all the shit she's going through, because the last thing Kandi heard was Marlo's situation with her sister, about how she had a call with her sister, it didn't go well. She doesn't really know about the stuff with her nephews yet. And Marlo basically fills Kandi in. She tells her about, kicking them out, and Marlo really opens up. She says that she's been crying more, she's been drinking more, she's at her wit's end, and so it's like, you kind of feel for Marlo a little bit in the situation. But again, Kandi offers a real ass take. She's like, I really do have sympathy for Marlo, but girl, you signed up for it, So it's like, what do you think about the situation? Because it's like, it is risky, because it's like, not risky, tricky. It's tricky because it's like, Marlo, she did sign up for it, but she didn't know. She basically just swooped in and caught the boys in a time of need. It's not something that she and she's struggling with it. Because what was she supposed to do? Was she supposed to just not swoop in, And so she really did a good thing, and I'm trying not to, like, be like, oh, well, you signed up, you did this good thing, so you have to, It's like she didn't really realize the whole gravity of the situation. She's dealing with struggles she didn't really realize she was going to have to deal with, or she isn't really equipped to deal with at this moment. But yeah, so I don't know. What do you think about the whole situation? I'm like keeping this stuff aside from like all the bullshit Marlo's been doing and all the shit Marlo's gonna pull later on. But, just I'm focusing on, in regards to like her situation, her Munty situation. What are your thoughts on that? But anyways, we're back at the dinner table shortly afterwards. Kenya, who is drunk as a fuck. Kenya is so drunk.
I have had a couple of drinks.
She suggests a game. It's like basically saying something positive at the table and then being like, Yass Queen, like as a group afterwards. It's kind of culty. Like when you like hearing it, everyone's like, Yass Queen in unison. Again, Kenya's drunk, but it's like she's a good drunk. The spectrum is basically Brandy Glanville, who's a bad drunk, to Kenya Moore, who's a good drunk, Drew, she's incapable of saying something positive when her turn comes to her. Marlo, Shereé, she's like, Drew can't give compliments because she's not used to getting them. Poor thing. How dreadful. Marlo, she asked Drew if she loves Sanya. Like, some shit, like, and after Drew kind of can't say anything, Marlo's like, oh, well, don't you love Sanya? Like, even though you guys get into it. Drew says she loves everyone, including her enemies. And then Lisa Wu, she's basically like, she's also drunk. She's like hyping Drew up. She's like, yes, because you can't be a prisoner and waiting for someone to give you an apology, blah, blah, blah. Like, you have to just move on and send love. She's just going on this big old rant, and then Sanya kind of tries chiming in, and Lisa Wu shuts Sanya down. She curses her the fuck out, and everyone's like, bring Lisa Wu back.
And I'm not waiting for an apology. I'm not waiting for nothing.
Yeah,
I don't care
you will
who
never
you
get it.
with. Excuse me, I'm talking.
Yeah, you've been talking a lot, Lisa. I said, hold on a second. Dang.
Yeah,
Dang.
I'm talking a lot.
Kenya said something, though, and I wanted for us to acknowledge it based on what you said.
Finish my thought.
Yeah,
and
but
you
Kenya
can
said
just
something based on what you said, and I think it was worth her being able to finish her
hold
thought.
that thought and let me finish what the I was saying.
Girl.
Next time, we'll all get in an environment where you won't interrupt me.
Can I have some more champagne, please?
The focus swiftly shifts back to Drew. And Shereé, she kind of brings up that Drew's looking upset. She's like, girl, why are you looking pressed? Like, why are you rolling your eyes in that direction? And then Drew acknowledges her drama with Fatum, because it's Fatum sitting there. But like Fatum doubles down. She's like, oh, well, I just repeated something that your assistant was saying. Like, I'm not going to apologize for that, so you don't want an apology. Because Drew's like, you should apologize to me. And Fatum's like, for what? I'm telling you, I did you a solid and told you what your assistant was saying, And then Kenya's drunk ass, she jumps in and she reveals to the whole table, and specifically to Drew, about Fatum's friend's background check on her and about the aliases and shit. Drew, understandably, is kind of caught off guard, and she's like, are you a stalker? Like, to Fatum. Fatum clarified the situation, just kind of setting the record straight. She's like, it was my friend who did it, blah, blah, blah. Like, I had nothing to do with it. It just fell into my hands, bitch. And then Drew, she clips the Danielle alias. She says, like, I guess Danielle is one of Drew's ex-assistants or whatever. And she shades Fatum for having info on her. She's like, oh, like, I can't believe, like basically, like, oh, whose friend, like, your friend has info on me. Like, well, you should keep an eye on her. Fatum, she's like, and I'm gonna get more if you keep coming for me, bitch. It was great. It was very much giving Megan King Edmonds energy from old Orange County. Just coming with the receipts, doing her investigations. And yeah, it wasn't even her, allegedly. It allegedly found her lap. Who knows what really found her lap, though. We'll never know. But yeah, she's really funny. People are loving her. And she's going to be like a solid friend of the season. She was included in the trailer as going to like the cast trip, I believe. She seems like a really fun time, though. I'm feeling Fatum. And then Kenya chimes in with a bunch of questions right after. Because I guess Drew earlier, she was talking about how, like, oh, she was like, I love everyone, including my enemies. Then Kenya's like, do you love her, Drew? And then Kenya's like, is my wig on straight? And it really isn't. And she's eating this fucking lobster tail. Like, it's so funny. She's so fucking drunk. Then shortly thereafter, Fatum, Kenya, and Kandi, they go up to get the coochie incense stuff ready. Fatum shares that, like, she's like, oh, I hope that, she's heating up the coals and shit. She's like, oh, I hope she didn't shave her coochie, because I guess the purpose of it is to, like, have the smoke stick to your pubic hair. And she's like, if she's bald down there, it's pointless. There's no reason to do this. So she's hoping that Shereé has some carpet ready for the pubic for the pube incense. The ceremony starts. It is a whole ass thing.
So we're gonna put incense in here, and you stand on it, okay, and then you let the smoke just enter. Oh, it's like a steam. Yeah, steam. Spread it wide.
If Fatum thinks that this coochie cleanse is gonna work, then I'ma try it.
Kenya gets in on the cleanse with Shereé. She's dancing along beside her, dancing over the incense. And it's like, yes, fuck Tyrone, fuck Mark, let's get some change up in this shit. And then Marlo and Drew, they're all disinterested and kind of insensitive. Marlo says, like, oh, I don't know any man who'd want some coochie that smells like something from a flea market, talking about the incense. She says something about, like, oh, I don't know if it'll work, but it might give Shereé a yeast infection, some shit like that. And then Drew, she's like, oh, this isn't black magic. It's black magic. And it's like, watch it, Drew. It's like, don't. But, so, yeah. But it's a good vibe. Shortly thereafter, everyone, they wrap it up. They cheer to Shereé. They do a toast and everything. Kenya references her wig. She says something about, like, oh, my 24 inches of my real hair. Like, just being facetious. Then Marlo, she, like, shadily praises Kenya. She's like, oh, Kenya, I'm so glad you can finally talk about, like, I'm finally going to talk about having fake hair, because for the longest time, you embarrassed about your fake hair. And Kenya's like, oh, there she goes, obsessed with me and talking about me again. And Marlo's like, oh, I'm not talking about it. I'm just saying I'm glad that you've grown in your self-confidence to own it. And some shit like that. Just being shady. They kind of get into it a little bit. Kenya has a moment, and she clarifies that she is the moment. She's like, I am the moment. I am the moment. And she goes to the camera all drunk. She's like, I am the moment. In the background, you hear Marlo's raspy ass. Like, not to Mark, you're not. Not to your baby daddy, you're not. And it's like...
Eat it. I am the moment, bitch. I am the moment. Only not to Mark, you're not. I am the moment. Not to your baby daddy. I am the moment. I'm always the moment.
Like, it's so unnecessary. And it's like, she sees Kenya having a good time, and Marlo just has to jump in with the bullshit. And it's just so gross and unnecessary. And again, it's so weird. It's like, I feel so bad for Marlo with, like, her situation for the boys, and I feel sympathy for her with that, while also holding her accountable to a certain extent. But it's like, because, you shouldn't kick the kids out. It's like, you shouldn't kick them out. But, she's just so nasty, and it's like, ugh. But thankfully, Kenya did not give a fuck. She was just vibing, having a good time. She ignored the fuck out of Marlo. She wasn't here for the hate, so I'd love to see it. Marlo then invites everyone to the Blue Ridge Mountains for a fucking trip that's coming up. Then they're gonna toast, and some drama over this toast unfolded. So Marlo was like, oh, let's cheers, and cheers with everyone, but Kenya, like, retracted her glass from cheering individually with Marlo. And Marlo went in, she, like, to do a cheers, and it was kind of loud, and some drinks spilled, and shit. It was all extra. And this came up during the after show. Not on Watch What Happens Live, but on, like, the Bravo after show or whatever. Marlo and Sanya were talking about it. And Sanya, all stupid, she was like, oh, I thought it was so extra and unnecessary for Kenya to retract her glass. And I was like, it was extra and unnecessary for Marlo to fucking swoop. It's like, girl, like, let's just cheers to this shit. You know, let's cut the bullshit. Let's just cheers. Kenya, they finished that, and Kenya, her drunk ass, she's like, okay, good night. And she's like, she goes upstairs. She's like, the moment is leaving. She's running upstairs. And Shereé and Drew go after her, and Kenya's just running around the house, and it's just so funny. She's giggling, running around Sheree's pad, and it's so cute. I just love seeing drunk Kenya. It's so funny.
Love you all. Love you all. Bye. The moment is leaving. That's my God.
You know what, y'all? I'm gonna keep this sweet and positive.
Oh, God. Running like you're one of my kids.
The moment is back. Yeah. Here, take a drink. 1, 2, 3.
Yes!
And then it's the end of the night and the end of the episode. So it was a really, really, really good episode, all things considered. And yeah, so that's it for this week. For this episode. There was a bit of a gap in between. It's been like 2 weeks because last week Atlanta had another off week. It was the second off week of the season so far. Hopefully that's it. Hopefully it's smooth sailing all throughout. The mid-season trailer dropped. The rest of the season looks really good. There's a lot of emphasis on the She by Shereé fashion show that'll be coming up soon. But yeah, it was a really good episode. But go and let me know what you thought about everything. What do you think about drunk Kenya? What do you think about Marlo's situation with the boys? What do you think about Marlo's nasty comments to Kenya? Whatever comes to your mind. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye.